This is the Heather Petero Show, where conversation meets calling. Well, all right, everyone. Today's guest is someone I've known for a very long time. And when I say long, I mean since literally day one. I was there for the whole origin story. He's a filmmaker, a digital storyteller, and according to his father, the primary cause of about 90% of his gray hair. He's the creative force behind Petero Productions, where he's out here proving you don't need a massive Hollywood budget to tell a story. He's young, he's ridiculously talented, and I'm legally obligated to love him. So please welcome my guest and my son, Seth Petero. Welcome to the show, Seth.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'd say gray hair is a bit of an overstatement. I feel like no hair is more like it, but you know.
Probably so.
Yeah.
So how does it feel to be interviewed by someone who has known you longer than your IMDb page?
Well, it's just a general conversation, it's just something I'm familiar with.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's rewind a bit. At what point did film stop being something you liked and start feeling like, okay, this might actually be my path? Do you remember the first project that just kind of clicked for you?
Originally, I thought I was going to be into YouTube, as many did at the time when I was first getting into it. I've been doing film and whatnot for over a decade now, and it's just one of those things where everybody wants to start out on social media and start content creating from the get-go. But the problem is the algorithm. The algorithm defines a lot of what you can do and how successful you can be. And on YouTube, that path has definitely changed. Over time, YouTube's algorithm has seen AI boosts and new features, and becoming a YouTuber is now probably one of the only things I would ever discourage a new videographer or filmmaker from doing without serious backing and budget. Back in the day when I was first doing YouTube, it was something that was just a fun and enjoyable thing to do, something that was very personal. Now YouTube is becoming a major platform, like big animation studios like Glitch Productions and Lackadaisy. They're all flocking to YouTube because hundreds of millions of views can mean big streaming platforms picking them up. So from YouTube, I decided that I wanted to go into something a bit more professional, where I could have more of a creative and personal touch. And that's when I started looking at making my own short films and telling my own stories.
Well, I remember when you were a kid and you loved watching several YouTubers. What were the names of some of the YouTubers that you liked to listen to when you were growing up?
Sean Duras was a big one. Sean Duras is actually still making videos, but he has completely transformed his content from what it used to be, which was a very skateboarder, cool dude type of vlogging experience, to now family-friendly content and a lot of stuff with his kids. I probably watched about 1,000 or maybe even more of his videos, of his vlogs. So he was definitely a big part. Everybody likes to say Casey Neistat, and that's just because he filled a space that was needing to be filled in the vlogging space on YouTube, and he did so in a revolutionary style for storytelling. Peter McKinnon is also a noteworthy mention. He is a fantastic photographer based in Canada who has now gotten himself into videography and all sorts of things. He is also setting world records for some of his photos and winning, of course, many awards.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I just remember you just constantly absorbing all of that material. Well, listen, you didn't just wing all of this. You mentioned training. You did film and media at Georgia State. You got a minor in entertainment media management, production training through the Georgia Film Academy, AV certifications. How important was it for you to understand both the creative and the technical sides?
I would say I have a lot of certifications and degrees for what I do, but genuinely, everything I've learned has come from in the field, actual opportunities that I've been able to learn and fine-tune my technical skills. It wasn't out of a textbook. And film and media, that bachelor degree, it wasn't anything to do with my technical prowess, but more to do with my networking capabilities and the Rolodex that I keep of literally hundreds of people from every sort of space in the AV, videography, and filmography worlds.
Well, it's just like in any arts, right? It's all who you know, right?
Exactly.
So, was there anything about the industry when you actually were an intern on a major television show? Was there anything that felt different from what you expected?
Everything was different. I like to tell it to people this way. My bachelor's degree embodied about 5% maybe of what the film industry is actually like. The closest I've ever come was my Georgia Film Academy production certification. That got me 30%. So it's really, there's so much that is not told to people getting into the industry because it's just so specialized. It's very old. Some things that we do in the industry and that we have in the industry are decades and decades, if not a century old. And practices of how to be on set are unlike anything else in the world. They're very eccentric. They're very specific. And your getting the next job fully relies on your capabilities to work with that team who has become accustomed to these very unique ways of practice.
So, when you're starting a new project, what usually comes first for you? An image, a sound, an idea, or just a feeling that you can't explain? What usually comes first in the creative process?
It's very project-based. So, of course, I get myself involved in many projects. I've written several songs. Several will be produced here very soon. I, of course, have worked on a union show. I've worked on non-union shows. I've worked on commercial work. My personal projects have kind of delved into all sorts of little things like that. And really, it just comes down to the inspiration that I feel in the moment. Sometimes I sit down and I say, okay, I'm going to write a story. This is what I'm going to do. And I sit down, I have a typewriter, and I just try to put something together. Sometimes it's a little less thoughtful than that. Sometimes I'm just sitting somewhere and something hits me. I write it down, and then whether it be a day or a year later, I put it together. So it's all about what is happening in the moment for me to see that inspiration through to a finalized result.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, your work right now is spanning everything from narrative pieces, experimental projects, music driven work, and commercial content. Do you ever feel like you're changing hats between those, or is your approach mostly the same?
I would say absolutely. And also, a large part of that is the people that you're working with, what they expect coming into the project. I'm not going to show up on a union set the same way that I would show up on a quick commercial promo set, or even more so, a set with my friends where I'm making something for one of their production companies. So it really just depends on who I'm working with, even more so than what the project actually is.
You've done some projects that were very technically demanding. And what draws you to those kind of challenges? Is it the shooting the film or working in long continuous takes? What are some of those things that draws you to face those challenges head on?
There are some filmmakers that love to do an idea because of the difficulty. For me personally, I handle the difficulty because of the idea. I'm very idea driven and want to see incredible, fantastical things appear on the screen. And a lot of times that necessitates technical prowess, and usually in a very difficult capacity, and requires specialized people for it as well. Because I can't do everything in the film industry because it's such a large area. It's like an ocean of people who know and come from so many backgrounds. So really, I would say the difficulty just comes from the idea and then pursuing that problem solving, pursuing that solution to see that idea on the screen.
You've also explored some interactive storytelling where the audience plays a role in how that story unfolds. How did that change the way you think about engagement?
That was a very YouTube moment. Um, Only YouTube would let you do something where you have end cards and you can decide like you're in a POV video game. There are many video gaming YouTubers who created this and founded this sort of video subset within YouTube. And notable mentions, of course, being Markiplier, and I believe even Jacksepticeye tried his hand at it. But really, it's just how the user interacts with the UI. And a lot of that comes down to that social media marketing and management, seeing how people gravitate towards UIs, user interfaces, and use them effectively to the way they want. So that's really where that sort of more commercial thought came into a narrative thought and how people would want to explore the story that was being told.
Yeah, that's great. So, music has always been a part of your life. You've grown up around it. I remember when you were a baby, we would take you were in a car seat, and I would have band practice at church, and you would be right there with us every band practice. Of course, I sang to you a lot as a baby, so I don't find it odd that you love music and you love making music, you love to sing. So when did songwriting become something more than just a little side interest for you?
I think songwriting still is a side interest for me. Producing is daunting. For somebody like me who has had to be self-taught in editing and softwares and learning a new software, just another one, is always going to be a more time and more challenge. Producing becomes this big looming cloud over the ideas that I've already had. I would say even the ones that I'm wanting to produce now still remain in that part of my brain that are just side interests, because film has always taken up most of my time, and videography or commercial work has always been what I pour myself and what I can do into, because that's how you get jobs. But for me, the songwriting, I'm completely fine with letting it be that more side interest thing because it's enjoyable, and many people would say it's therapeutic. And I don't want to steal that away from what songwriting means to me, because the minute that it becomes a job or something that I'm having to put so much challenge and problem solving into is the minute that it falls out of that category, that classification of, oh, I'm just writing something because I want to see what I can make of it.
Oh, sure. So would you consider yourself a filmmaker who writes music or a songwriter who makes films?
I don't think it even matters. I think I'm just an artist who will find expression in any medium that I get myself into. I've even gotten myself into more traditional artworks, especially when I was younger. I love pottery. I love making things with my hands. So there's that as well. But any sort of medium is just another way for me to have my expression.
So when you sit down to write music, what usually comes first? The lyrics, the melody, or just a mood?
Again, another thing of in the moment inspiration. There are some songs that I have put together because I came into it with an idea. Sometimes a song is extremely meaningful, sometimes it's not. It just depends about what I'm trying to achieve, what the end goal is. Am I just trying to make another song to just enjoy doing that and, problem solving the little patterns that can happen within it? Or am I trying to display something meaningful or even work through my own emotions? Because there is, as many would say, there's a very personal progress that happens when you songwrite. And there are songs that have heavily divulged into my difficulty with death and the people that I love that have been lost, personal things, personal growth, and how to navigate a world in the way that it is. So songwriting is very much a personal pet of mine where it lets me kind of mull through those things.
Yeah, I get that. You know, one thing I love about your creative life is your love for antiques and old technology. What is it about objects with history that draws you in?
I don't really know. I think it's one of those things where there's uh maybe it's something neurodivergent related, maybe it's just something where I like the way something looks. I'm not necessarily sure, but one thing is for certain, I do enjoy that older school tactile sort of feel to things, and surrounding myself with the way of life that people that came before me had. So I'm not necessarily sure. I just kind of do it.
So you're involved with some vintage technology, and they have a club, and it's called the Atlanta Typewriter Club, and you help them with video work. Tell us about that.
It is surprising how many people do not know about the Atlanta Typewriter Club, or even that there are typewriter enthusiasts in Atlanta. Somebody may come up to one of us and say, "Who are you? What is this? What's going on?" They're just so confused. And people tend not to realize that there is still such a community for typewriters. This will date the podcast a little bit, but just a couple days ago, Phoenix Typewriters, the gentleman who is behind Phoenix Typewriters, he passed away, and so many people came out of the woodwork to say, "Oh my gosh, I remember him from this." His name was Mr. Dwayne, and he was just a fantastic legend in the typewriter space. And so many people came out of the woodwork just to give them their regards and say, "Oh, this person was really special to me. They helped me with dot, dot, dot." So again, another YouTube thing as well. But yeah, there's so much happening in the typewriter space. So many people can't find their home with that. Atlanta Typewriter Club is definitely a home for that. We have meetings, usually once a month, but not necessarily on some sort of schedule. Our social media platforms for the longest time have been heavily lacking. So part of when I joined the club, part of my job was to help them with that and try to boost their video content, boost what they were capable of in getting themselves out there, and really making the club an outreach of tactile machines.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I have been impressed with how many young people in their 20s, such as yourself, that are so fascinated by typewriters.
Yeah, CNN recently did an interview of Typewriter Tom, our original founder of the club, one of them, and he talked about how a lot of young people are getting in, and that was a really big part of the CNN's coverage of that story. And when they were interviewing me for that, the first question they asked is, "Why are so many young people getting into this?" And I think it's simply that it gives a very focus lacking generation something to physically touch and feel and dive deeper into. There's a history behind every piece, and that leaves a lot to be discovered. And so a lot of people want to say, "Oh, what is this machine?" Or, "Oh, what is this record?" Or, "Oh, what is this, analog piece of equipment?" What is it? What does it do? And whose hands has it been in? So there is a very analog movement happening in our world. I would say it's not just younger people. Even older people are going back to their roots. And that may also have part to do with it. People want to always go back and be sentimental about their high school days or whatever. Gabriel Iglesias, he's a comedian. He bought a 94 Mustang just because it was that time in his life, back when he was younger, and he wanted to just relive that. So analog's coming back, and the past is coming into the future.
You mentioned vinyl records, and that's one of your passions right now. Tell us about that.
Vinyl records, I got in it at the worst possible time. I mean, just absolutely terrible timing. I've always loved music. I never really got into records per se until I started getting music from my favorite artists, and they started releasing vinyl. And really what sparked my interest was I inherited a Sansui 2000X amplifier and a Sansui turntable along with some kicking Sansui SP 2000 speakers from my Aunt Carol, who traveled the world and lived in Japan for some time. She actually bought the system before it came out in the US. If you look up that equipment, it will probably say it's from 1980, but I have pictures of that equipment in Japan in her living space, for lack of better terms, predating, going all the way back to 1976. So obviously it was being sold around in Japan before it ever got over here. But it was really that equipment that made me want to dive into all of these artists that I love: San Holo, Porter Robinson, Madeon, Skrillex, Seven Lions. There's so many out there that are just incredible in the EDM space. And being able to listen to that on such a big system is freeing in a way. There's something incredible that happens when you can feel the vibrations in your feet and be able to explore that sound in a new sound space. So records were inevitable anyways, just because of their antique nature, but really it is the EDM space and the incredible equipment I inherited that got me into it.
Oh, that's awesome. So you're working on several projects, working as part of an AV ministry team at a church, developing film projects, writing music, collaborating on a web series. How do all these worlds connect for you?
At present, I wouldn't necessarily say they connect. There's just kind of a tornado of things happening right now. So there is not really a deep connection. The only connection is me and my personality that I bring to the table and my very unique storytelling. I'm very old school in the way that I like to tell stories, and I'm very fantastical in the way I tell stories. I don't shy away from a big idea. So when I get into some of these projects, it's really just myself that can be the only connection between all of these genres.
So, what has working in a ministry environment taught you about collaboration and storytelling, and how does that play into your faith?
I have been in the ministry space for a very long time before I ever worked on it, as you know. And it's one of those things where if you're a quadruple PK, where you have, four ministers in your family, one of which I'm talking to right now, a youth minister at one point and then a music minister at another, it's one of those things where you are just surrounded by this world of theology and connection and community. And so when I started actually working in the space of AV tech in the church, there wasn't really anything new to me from the ministry church side of things. It was just a need that needed to be fulfilled. Everybody was, after COVID, scrambling to get all of their AV tech together in time. And at the time I was at Mount Nebo, and Mount Nebo was not any different. And so slowly but surely, I built up this YouTube channel and this online presence for people to tune into, to check out the church and see if they wanted to join it when they moved to Georgia. And because that does happen. And also just to give people a taste of, hey, this is our church. This is what we do, and this is what we believe in, and this is how we worship together. And we would love to have you together with us here as well. So really, it's just about the AV side of things coming into play and just trying to swim through all the technical aspects of that.
How does faith show up in your work, even when it's not front and center?
I mean, really, how could it not? I am a Christian, and everything that I do, whether it's at the church or outside of the church, is going to be deeply informed by that. We are supposed to take on the likeness of God, the likeness of Christ, as if putting on a coat. So if I'm stepping out the door, no matter where I'm headed off to, I need to be leaving the door with that Christ coat. So stepping into the church there should really be no difference in myself and in my work, because realistically, I'm just making more media as the Seth who has on that Christ coat.
In the film industry, though, does that ever present a problem?
in the film industry, I learned something very interesting. There are a lot of unspoken spiritual people in the industry. The industry is very much not a place to be chatting about your faith and wanting to just daily converse about that. It's a very specific time where you're trying to get a goal reached, and a lot of people that are in the industry are very against faith and very against Christians. But there is a pocket. Every time I get on some sort of project, there are Christians who, when they find out that I am a Christian, and of course I'm vocal about it. I'm not if somebody asks, I'll of course tell them, or if I'm doing something, I'll mention that I have church to do this next day, or the reason I'm doing this is because I have some sort of AV tech problem with the live stream at the church, and usually that brings on the conversation. But my being a follower by faith gives people the invitation to talk about faith on set. It's very, very interesting, and it's something I'd love to study more as I continue to get into these projects. But being not necessarily, I want to say vocal, maybe vocal's the wrong word, but being open to talking about faith and God on set is something that opens the door. It invites people to be themselves and to have their faith in a place where they're going to be for 12 hours a day, 5, usually 6 days a week. So, you will spend the most time on a film set if it's a union, but definitely if it's non-union.
So tell our listeners, what does a really good creative day look like for you?
I would say that entirely depends on the project that I'm doing. I do everything from editing to filming to writing to storyboarding to problem solving. The list goes on and on. So really, that is a very large question, and it's, again, a very project-based answer. I would love to say that it is a day without any issues and that everything went along swimmingly, but I have yet to have that happen. So we're not going to say that. We're just going to say that real human connection happened and that art was created through that.
That's awesome. What's something people maybe outside the media world don't always understand about this kind of work?
I would say that people that are outside of the media world have a general understanding of what's happening, and that is in very large part thanks to social media, thanks to content creators that are, making their living off of telling the tales of the film industry and film works that came before. But, there's a dedication, there's a level of dedication that happens for people, and really a lifestyle that is created by being a part of the industry. I should note I'm getting myself more into commercial and AV work these days than film industry stuff. So the people that you're going to meet in those different worlds will change that answer as well. But specifically for the film industry, when you are a filmmaker, it is your life. And you dedicate every small little thing you do to honing and perfecting that craft.
Well, you are a man of many talents and many loves and passions, and one of those is food. I would say that our family is a little bit of a foodie family.
A wee bit.
A little bit, right? Yeah. So what kind of food experience do you love most? The hole in the wall, the high end, somewhere in between? What's your favorite?
Oh, gosh. How long is this podcast supposed to be again? There are places when we are traveling that we will just happen to go to, maybe for the week, maybe for a day, and it will be the most spectacular of something that I've ever had. And usually I will find that whenever we go back, or whenever somebody that I know has gone back, that place is gone. I would say the places that are the best will always and forever never remain. If it has gone out of business, of course you would think, oh, well, it must have sucked. That's why it went out of business. No, in fact, a lot of times the best places I've ever eaten at, they no longer exist. And it's just because usually they're run by people who love and care about their food and their clientele, and just went in with an idea. They just wanted to do something, and they're going to see it through as long as they can. But they're a normal human being, and they can't do that forever. So eventually they say, okay, let's shut the doors. Let's wrap this up. And then, of course, your favorite lasagna or sandwich or taco or mac and cheese or whatever the heck it was that was that one thing has now disappeared off the face of the earth. So I would say the places that are fleeting moments of food are the best places.
So is there a city, maybe one that we've traveled to, that you think has a seriously underrated food scene?
Underrated.
Think Kansas City. We've been to San Antonio, Boston, Philly, Seattle, San Francisco.
Ireland.
Yes.
All over the Republic of Ireland. I was decently surprised by Anna Maria Island when I went there.
That's in Florida.
Yeah, and I may have just been not in the know, period, about Anna Maria Island. Maybe it's everybody's like, oh yeah, Anna Maria is great. But to me, it was every time we ate somewhere, there was something good to write home about, you know? And I would definitely say Anna Maria was on the top of things. And of course, Ireland. I mean, you just can't. It's Ireland. I was actually having this conversation the other day with one of the videographers that I know, and he was telling me that Ireland has no good food. I was like, well, what do you mean? He was like, well, I've been all over it, and I spent a lot of time, like, I went all around the island, and then I went into the island, and then I did all this stuff, and yeah, there just wasn't anything good. It was terrible food. And I was like, what? Where were you going where you were not having good food? First and foremost, I feel the quality is incredible. You know, it's much better than the American quality of food, and that's just because they're not so corporate. I think I saw 2 billboards in the entire march around the southern part of Ireland we did, whereas you can't go 20 feet in America without seeing a billboard. So definitely less commercial and corporate space and food. But I think that adds to the organicness of their food and really defines a standard quality there. I'm not saying there wasn't bad food when we were in Ireland. There were a couple of places where I was like, oh yeah, this sucked. But on the majority, there were places that were fan-flippin-tastic. There's a place, I always mispronounce the name. I think it's Vaughn's or Vaughan's.
Vaughn's.
Vaughn's, yeah. There's a place called Vaughn's, and it has the best fish and chips you will probably find in Ireland. I dare you, triple dog dare you, to find anything better. It is a newspaper on a tray that has a layer of chips that have been drenched in beef tallow, and then it has a fish that is fresh from the day that has been battered in their 40-year-old starter. And
yeah, what was the starter again? It was like a sourdough starter or
something along those lines.
Yeah.
Whatever it was fantastic. And it was by far, I'm not a seafood person, but I ate the seafood because of how good and fresh it was. So, you know, and then of course we have to mention Blueberry Cafe in Donegal, Ireland. You know, you can get a fresh pastry or a biscuit or whatever, a scone. It was a scone. You can get a fresh scone there with, you know, cream and jam, and it's just the best thing your lips have ever gotten around. I mean,
okay, is everybody's mouth watering now?
So there are definitely a lot of good food places all over. You just have to look for them.
That's right. Okay. This is quick answer here, okay?
Okay, rapid fire.
Favorite piece of gear you own right now?
My O'Connor fluid head. It is a 1030 and it is from the 1970s.
Okay, the average listener is not going to know what that is. What is that?
A O'Connor fluid head is the industry standard for fluid heads. Back in the 1930s, I think it was, there was a gentleman, Mr. O'Connor, who wanted to devise a tripod system that would allow him to steadily film trains. He loved filming locomotives, but the problem was that old tripods would not let you make smooth movements, which on real film look terrible. So he devised this system that used what is now a silicon-based fluid that is proprietary to O'Connor. He used this fluid within this metal head that allowed him to make smooth movements over both pan and tilt. And it was a fantastic revolution in the filmmaking industry and in the space. Well, Mr. Walt Disney, who, as you know, loved locomotives as well, he saw Mr. O'Connor one day doing his thing, and he said, I have to have that device that you have made. So Disney started this movement within the film industry. How could they not? Disney was a very big part of filmmaking back in the day. Devised a way to get all of these fluid heads into their sets, into the industry, and it has just become the golden standard. There are several other fluid head makers that are out there, and videographers are probably very familiar with Manfrotto as their fluid head. I also have a Manfrotto fluid head, but there is genuinely nothing in this world like a O'Connor fluid head that has been fully serviced.
Wow, that's awesome. You should do an advertisement for them. What is a piece of gear you want but absolutely do not need?
Ooh. An Arri. But I feel like that's every filmmaker's answer, an Arri camera. Films have been largely made by either the Arri camera or the Sony Venice lineup of cameras or the Panavision line of cameras. There really is nothing else in the industry for an A-cam. Arri devised basically the best way of filmmaking back in the days of real film, and they continued that into the digital time. So an Arri camera, just to understand the price point of some of these things, an Arri camera would cost about $60,000 unless you're buying one of their new Arri cameras. They just came out with the Arri Enzo, I believe. It's a camera that can film in slow motion, very fast slow motion. And I think that one is coming in at like 40 or something now. But you will also get a lens set. You have to have usually PL mount for Arri, usually. And let's just say you wanted to kit it out with a set of Cook lenses, like what's being used on The Chosen, a very familiar TV series to some who are in the church and are of faith. Cook lenses, gosh, I think a whole set of Cook lenses is like $100,000, and each lens is like 10 or 20 by themselves. So, you know, you're talking in thousands, if not tens of thousands, with some of this cinema gear.
Okay. All right, cool. What is a digital tool you can't live without?
A digital tool I can't live without. Well, DaVinci Resolve. I mean, DaVinci Resolve is absolutely changing the game in software UIs. They've packed in so much AI into the latest DaVinci that it's just phenomenal what it can do. You can retime music to fit your clips. You can isolate voices to the point where if you were, say, just recording from your phone in an open public space, it can sound very, very close, like you set aside time to record them in a nice, quiet place. DaVinci has always been the standard for color grading since the 1970s. Most people don't know that. Blackmagic Design bought out Fairlight and Fusion, which were both separate softwares, and folded them into this wonderful multi-layered biscuit that is DaVinci Resolve that lets you handle any project in one timeline.
Awesome. So that was the new stuff. What about old tech that you love that makes no sense to anyone else?
I don't know. I'd say cassette decks, but those are coming back in too. Unfortunately, my
Yes,
timing
that's so hard to believe that's coming back.
Yeah, it's literally the worst format of music. It's worse than a CD.
All right.
But nonetheless, it's coming back, and people are excited about it. And
it's that vintage technology.
Yep, analog time.
Yep. So, what's something you used to love creatively that you've completely outgrown now?
I don't know. I just kind of get into something and I keep it. I mean, I'll lose something a little bit once in a while, but it's still there. I'm just focusing on other things. But I'm a collector of collections. I like to just collect all these things that I enjoy, and it just never really falls out. I think the only one I could say is coins, but that was my very, very first thing I ever started a collection of. And I haven't lost interest in what I have, the coins and the currency that I have now. It's just I'm never usually actively collecting those things.
Gotcha. So looking forward, where do you want Petero Productions to grow next?
I want Petero Productions to grow into a fully fledged studio that is not only collaborating with other artists and creatives to make their stories come alive, but is pushing the boundaries in the cinema space and on genres of animation to make stories that I have written. I have so many ideas and so many things that I've put together, and I would love to see so many of these ideas come together with a jaw-dropping performance on the screen.
So what would you say to a young creator sitting at home right now with a camera and a lot of questions? What would you say to them to help them get started?
First and foremost, you have to define what specifically you're wanting to do. For example, if you just go in and say, okay, well, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to do all the live events that I can get myself into. Well, you're already looking at a ton of gear and software that you have to learn, because anything that you get into is time that you have to have in your front end to learn and adapt to. So you really have to sit down and question, what is going to work for me? Shadow some people, learn from some people, see what's out there. There is a big debate online whether you should take free work or not. If you are starting out, you need to be taking free work. And that doesn't necessarily mean from people that can pay you. That just means from other creatives that are trying to put something together and don't necessarily have the greatest of budgets backing it up. These are the people that you're going to learn from. Your friends are your mentors. It doesn't take a master to make a master. And you have to understand that the people surrounding you, as we would say in the industry, your crew is your family. You're going to be with these people for a large portion of your life, and you're going to learn from them. And so it is important to surround yourself with good people, to surround yourself with very talented creatives, add to your Rolodex, very analog way of saying, make sure you have a lot of people you can contact, especially if something goes awry and not exactly how you would have expected it on a project. And then try to get into something that works off of your best talents. I'm not necessarily saying that what you're going to do is going to be the most enjoyable thing you've ever done, but it should be something that you can do well effortlessly before even learning all of the technical gear and softwares and computer hardware and this and that. It should be something that right out of the gate you're coming into with a fantastic heart and a spirit that is capable of doing great things in whatever you put yourself towards.
That's awesome. So tell people, first of all, tell them what Petero Productions does, And then, if you will, just share with everybody how they can get a hold of you if they want to book you for a project.
Sure, yeah. Petero Productions is my own production company, and it's basically at this point right now just asking me to do whatever you have to do. I do many projects ranging from AV tech work to standard videography to promos, either for events or for companies or restaurants or whatever business you may have. And then, of course, I'm doing things like live streaming, working on podcasts, helping people with their setups. There is so many things that if you want to be successful in the filmography and videography space that you have to be capable of doing. So there are so many things that I can already capably do. So it would honestly be easier to say what I don't do in those spaces. So reach out, give me a call. My website is peteroprod.com. That's peteroprod.com. And you can reach out via either the email or the phone number that's there. And we can talk together. Quotes are free, nothing like that. It's very easy and conversational because I want to work on your project and I want to make sure that whatever we're producing is going to be incredible and legendary towards your goals. So just reach out. My portfolio's on there as well. And you'll be able to get a taste of both the narrative and the commercial work that Petero Productions has done.
That's awesome, Seth. Hey, man, I'm so proud of you, not just because it's strong, what you're building, but it's because it's thoughtful, disciplined, and honest. And thanks for stepping out from behind the camera today. We've enjoyed having you and hearing more about what you're doing. And thanks for telling us about what you're building and what your life and how you enjoy this life that God has given you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to the Heather Petero Show, produced by Heather Petero Studios. Connect with us on Facebook or Instagram, or visit heatherpetero.com. Until next time, stay creative and live on purpose.